everybody, I'm Michelle Roy of Dragonfly Wellness, and this is a special 3-part video series for the YouTube subscribers only. So this is a special treat just for you. And it is a 3-part video series in mindful eating. And we start with this first part. Part 1 is chop. So we start with preparing our meal. What do we do when it's time to cook? Perhaps we're following a recipe, maybe not, maybe you know the recipe. But the beginning of preparing our meal requires assembling the ingredients. So we assemble our ingredients, our fruits, our veggies, our grains, our proteins, whatever it is that we're arranging for our meal. Ideally, it is colorful, right? This phrase of eating the rainbow. So we've got a colorful, well-balanced meal. So we're balancing all of those things, the proteins and the veggies, etc. I'm not going to get into nutrition per se, but ideally this food is something that is as close to its source as it can be. It's minimally processed. Ideally, it's organic and wonderful because we want to put good things into this very precious vessel that contains the spirit, right? So this is very precious. We want to honor the body. And we begin by what we put into it. So mindfulness, mindful eating, and this is all inspired by my dear teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, who once you study true mindfulness applied in everyday living, you won't be able to eat an orange the same way. It's that kind of shift. So we're assembling these ingredients. As you're assembling your ingredients, take a moment to really recognize this ingredient. For instance, if I'm preparing a salad to go with my lunch, I have the greens. Maybe I've sliced some cucumber, maybe I've sliced some carrot, maybe I have a little onion, olive oil, some spices, perhaps there's avocado, maybe I'm having hummus with the salad, whatever the things are, and then recognizing the cucumber, for instance, seeing it, recognizing that once this was a seed in the ground, and then a vine grew, and then out of that vine came this cucumber, and this one cucumber made its way to the farmer's market or the store where I purchased it, and now it's come home and I'm going to use it to nourish my body. That's a real miracle. That's just one aspect, one ingredient of the entire meal. And so if I can have that same awareness with each ingredient, recognizing this, if perhaps I'm steaming rice, I recognize that this rice was grown somewhere, thanking the earth for providing the rice, to all the people that went into preparing the rice to be packaged and make its way to the store where I purchased it, to all the people at the store, to the truck driver who brought it to the store, to the store employees who then unloaded the truck and prepared it for stocking. Someone stocked that item, and this one bag came home with me to take care of me. So when we think about it, there are hundreds of people involved in just one meal, even a simple meal that we prepare for ourselves. So recognizing all of the humanity, all of the resources that went into you having this meal, not to mention the energy that you're putting into it. As I'm slicing my cucumber, am I thinking about other things? Right? Then you can tell when people do this, right? Especially if they're thinking about something that annoys them. At first we're slicing the cucumber and then we're really going to town on the poor cucumber, right? But when we're being mindful, and we especially want to be mindful in the kitchen, right? There are sharp, hot, dangerous instruments in the kitchen. So what a better place to apply some mindfulness, right? As I'm mindfully cutting my cucumber, being aware of the knife slicing through the flesh of the cucumber, and then continuing, taking just what I need, saving the rest. The same thing with the next ingredient. I'm not rushing through any of this. There's no urgency. I'm just preparing the meal. And at the same time, being very present with each ingredient, being very present with each stage of preparation in that practice of mindfulness, mindful eating. And ultimately, we will arrive with this beautiful meal on our plate. And then we also pause. We still are not eating yet. We're just in this preparation phase, right? The chopping, like I said. And we're also recognizing now how these ingredients have transformed. How it was here, perhaps I've applied heat or oil or my kitchen instruments like knives, etc. And now it resembles this meal that I'm about to impart, impart to my body, to take in and be nourished and healed. And optional, right, to perhaps bless your food or Reiki, or at the very least, just take it all in. Appreciate the transition that's made to make it to your plate, and take a moment to say, wow, I really intend that my body do, use these ingredients to the best of its healing and its nourishment. And again, give thanks to those thousands or hundreds anyway of people who came together to create this one meal. And you for pouring your love into it. And before we start to eat, right, we're still chopping. We're chopping away our distractions. So we don't sit at the table with a cell phone or an iPad or have the TV on, or those of you that like to flip through magazines. Is that more mindful to be quiet and looking at a magazine or reading a book while you eat? You're still not paying attention to your food. Thich Nhat Hanh says the two most important things for you to focus on during your meals are your food and your companions. Being fully present with the meal that we are about to enjoy together, blessing that meal together, being grateful for the people that we are sharing our meal with. All of that, cutting away the distraction. We don't need that. It doesn't take that long to eat. Whatever's happening on the screens can wait until we're done. If you want to add another layer of mindfulness, this can all be done in silence so that we are aware of how much sound we can create. This was something that was very striking to me when I was on retreat at Kripalu and honoring silence, which is interesting practice to do when you're in a place where not everyone else is honoring silence. In fact, most people are not. I had been there for several days before I encountered another person who was also holding silence. And you become so attuned to the subtle energies of the world around you, and you start to recognize that people, even though they're being quote unquote silent, just because they're not speaking out loud, doesn't mean they're not creating noise. It was very fascinating to observe how loud people can be just moving around or just eating their meal, not just the chewing aspects, but just existing, right? And the way things move, like, another way before we start to eat the food, again, in an effort to chop away, to cut away these attachments and distractions, to mindfully move my plate from the tray and set it down as noiselessly as possible, as soundlessly as possible onto the table. The same with the silverware, right? We can scoop up the silverware and have it all clang together and then put it back on the table, or I can lift one instrument at a time and lovingly place that on the table. And once my table setting is arranged, to once again pause, observe, take in the beauty of what you've created for yourself, letting each meal that you enjoy be its own little miracle. Recognizing you can have, for instance, this morning over my breakfast, I had some wonderful organic gluten-free granola that is handmade by a very small company here near Greenville, and she makes the most beautiful granolas. and to just appreciate all the ingredients that are in just that little bowl, 1 cup of granola. The seeds, the nuts, the oats, right? How it was all lovingly mixed together in the perfect ratio, right? But if I'm not paying attention to that, even if I think I'm being more mindful and I'm reading while I'm eating, I'm not paying attention to that particular mixture of nuts and grains as I'm taking them in. If I'm not fully present with this bowl of granola as I'm taking it in and identifying the different ingredients and their flavors as I bring those flavors to my mouth, and perhaps also appreciating my own food chemistry and whatever I've mixed together. This morning I had cashew milk yogurt with my granola, and appreciating those flavors and how it's different tomorrow if I put just almond milk, right? All the ways we can be present with our meals. And we'll get into the other parts of it later. This is all before we start to ingest the food, right? We're just honoring the food itself, where it came from and how it got to us. We're lovingly preparing the meal for us. It's an offering, as if it's an offering you were making to someone very precious to you, to a higher power, whatever that might be, right? That's also you. So honor that with your highest attention and your most present mindfulness. And even that is just pouring so much love into your food. I promise you it will taste different when we get around to the tasting coming up soon. So there you are, everybody. That's the beginning. We not only chop the food to prepare, but we also cut away our distractions so that we can really be mindful and present with our meal. All right, everybody. Part 2 will be coming out to you later on in probably next week sometime. And I look forward to seeing you. If this resonated with you at all, try it at home. Let me know how it went. Leave it in the comments and tell me how it's working for you or not. And we'll continue to talk about that. We'll probably do a part 4 at the very end and just respond to comments and questions that came up throughout the experience of applying mindfulness to eating. All right, everybody, enjoy that, and I will see you again soon. Thanks.